All right, everybody, I want to welcome you Thursday night to another episode of Conversations with Commodores. Although we're switching in the future to Tuesday nights due to some scheduling issues. LT Southall, my guest for tonight, had time for us to go tonight at 7 o'clock. So I want to welcome everybody, and I want to welcome LT to the program. How are you doing tonight, friend?
I'm doing real good. Good to see you again.
You too, and it was nice to meet you in person at the Black and Gold tailgate, the pregame this past weekend on campus. That was a lot of fun. There were, I don't know how many numbers. It seemed like at least 20 to 30 former players. It may have been more ultimately, but got to meet a bunch of new faces, got to catch up with some old friends. So that I think that tailgating that they offer pregame is such a great addition to being a supporter of the program. If you guys didn't catch it earlier today, and I know you were probably working, earlier this afternoon, I had a conversation with Deputy Athletics Director Tommy McClelland, and it's on this site. It's also on my YouTube channel. Tommy went over the Vandy United campaign a little bit. He also shared with us a little bit more details about how the basketball and football programs, the facilities are going to be enhanced. McGugan's going to be enlarged. They're doing something in both end zones. It really looks like a neat thing. We went over the map a little bit. They don't have specifics yet to share with us. That'll be coming up. But it was very exciting that these future athletes, and hopefully some who are still on campus, will be able to enjoy the benefits of these new additions that this campaign's undergoing. Well, LT, you and I came along way before the Vandy United program came on. You were actually teammates, as I know now, with Watson Brown, a little bit with Christy Houck, and my buddy Anthony Joseph. You played in the early 70s. And before we get to that experience, share a little bit of your background. Where'd you grow up, and what sports did you enjoy as a kid?
Well, I grew up all over the Southeast. My dad was a salesman with DuPont, and I was born in Fort Worth when he was in the Air Force. Then we went to Woodstock, New York, where he started with DuPont. They quickly moved him down to Columbia, South Carolina, Abbeville, Louisiana. I started elementary school there. Then we went down to south of Miami, Perrine, Florida, for like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Then we moved up to Nashville. So I was in high school in Nashville, 7th through most of the 11th grade. In fact, the day after football season was over, junior year, I flew out to Spokane, Washington, where he had been transferred. So I finished in Spokane and then came back to Vanderbilt.
It was almost as if you were a military family as much as you moved during your childhood.
I'm obviously proud of my dad. He was a great salesman. So he would, he'd go into a territory and get them a predominant market share, and they'd move him off somewhere else if they needed some help. And
wow,
he was quite a guy.
Well, they certainly must have recognized what he was able to do.
I only played football. I wrestled to keep in shape, and I threw this shot one year, but it was all football.
Hillwood High School. How big was Hillwood High School in the Nashville area at the time?
Oh, I don't know how many people, but
how many in your graduating class? If you
I have no, because I did graduate.
11th grade.
Yeah. But all I know is we were a crappy football team. But junior year, we finally won a game to break a 39-game losing streak.
Whoa.
Yep.
How did the community treat that win?
I don't know how the community did, but me and my buddy got in a car and hauled ass downtown. I don't know whether it was WSM or LAC or where we went, but we decided we were going to tell the world about our big win. We didn't care about stoplights or nothing. It was something else. It really was.
Oh, that's awesome. What positions did you play back in the day?
I played, I was always a lineman, but then I was, both ways, offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a little linebacker. Yep.
Any of your teammates, either in Nashville or in Washington, go on to play at the next level or even the professional ranks?
I at Hillwood, I played with Tom Bernhardt, who was George Bernhardt's son. George was one of the assistant coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They'd come in from Kansas. Anyway, so Tom was a big stud, and I think it was because of Tom and me playing at the same place that Vanderbilt first saw me. Although that was my sophomore year, and I didn't play hardly at all till junior year.
Mm-hmm. Had
But,
you hit a growth spurt by 11th grade, or what was your dimension?
Yeah, I would. Oh man, yeah, 11th and 12th. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the big height spurt, and but I never gained any weight. I even in college, I never played at more than 210. High school, I don't think I cracked 200. I'm sure. Yeah.
And now that we're seeing high school kids reaching north of 275, some even close to 300,
Oh, yeah.
college guys going into the mid 300s. And I even saw that Florida has a player who's close to 400
Sure.
who's playing on the line for them right now. Bigger, faster, stronger. But back in the early 70s, I don't know if there were any 300 pounders at that time. If they were, they certainly were a rarity.
Biggest guy I ever played against was Bubba McCullum at Kentucky. He was 290. So he's a big old boy.
That is a big dude, that's for sure. Now, when you left Nashville and headed out to Spokane, Washington, and played that year, your senior year, was there a big difference in the quality of football in the different parts of the country?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, it was a little different. I mean, it seemed like we threw a lot more.
Mhm.
I don't think it was that much different. No.
Was that team a little better team than the one at Hillwood, or they weren't as good either?
No, I unfortunately was never on a winning football team.
Well, you must have done something right if you got Vanderbilt's attention. But with you moving back out or moving out west for your senior year, had they already been recruiting you, or talk about that relationship? When did that start?
I wasn't aware of anything until senior year. I think they asked for some films and stuff. So I don't really know. It was almost out of the blue. Well, I guess the first thing that happened was probably January. Vanderbilt called, said, we'd like to offer you a scholarship. Like, this is pretty exciting stuff. Anyway, it just came out of the blue. I wasn't really expecting. There was some interest from them and some other folks. My dad was a Virginia Tech grad, and so I was really supposed to go there. But and I went on a recruiting trip there that I did not like. Their attitude wasn't as positive as Vanderbilt. The guys I met at Vanderbilt were all very positive. Sounded like a good place to go.
And the guys who were already on the Vanderbilt team, or the fellas who were also being recruited, were these guys you competed against or knew any of those guys previously?
Well, the people I knew, let's see. So I mentioned Tom Bernhardt, who played with me at Hillwood. I'm not sure of any other Hillwood folks. I played against some folks that were with me at Vanderbilt. Barrett Sutton and Jeff Peoples from MBA.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Larry Pass played briefly at Vanderbilt. He was from Hillwood as well. Oh, Chuck Wood was I think a pretty good offensive lineman at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. Was I guess Coach Pace was the coach at that time. Did you know of him? Either just had heard he was the Vanderbilt coach, or had he ever contacted you before the official offer?
Nope, not a bit.
Wow. Did you? What about an official visit? Did you come to Vanderbilt campus?
I sure did. So, yep, I had a visit. I don't remember much about it, other than while I was in Nashville, I got a call from Alabama, said, while you're down in this part of the country, why don't you come down and visit us? And then I get a similar call from Virginia Tech. So what was supposed to be a visit just to Vanderbilt ended up being the 3-school trip was pretty cool. Yep.
Wow. So you go to Virginia Tech, you didn't like the vibe that they were given. Then was Alabama the last of the 3?
They were the second one. It was so Vanderbilt, Alabama, then Virginia Tech.
Okay. And who did you meet? Coach Bryant, or was it somebody?
I did not, and that was almost the only reason I went there. I knew I wasn't going to get to play there, so I went because I wanted to meet Bear Bryant, and that didn't happen.
Oh,
but I do have a good story about the Alabama trip.
Well, let's hear it. If you want to share it, I want to hear it.
My host was John Hanna. So they put me up in the athletic dorm, and they introduced me to this guy who's going to host me. He's a freshman at the time. He comes down, he's this great, big, fat dude, as far as I could tell. He didn't look athletic at all. It's like, who are they pawning me off on? Little did I know this is going to become the greatest offensive lineman of all time. So he was glad to get to do this because he had been confined to the dorm for shooting fireworks under somebody's door. So he was confined to the dorm, but now I was his way to get out.
Right.
So anyway, it was a great day or two.
Yeah, little did you know back then he'd end up being a Hall of Famer and largely one of the greatest linemen in college, if not the pros, ever. But yeah, I can remember seeing kind of the early pictures of him and his brother Charlie, and they really got molded, if you will, as they went along in college. It got better shape, stuff like that. Guys, I'm talking with LT Southall, and we're having a good conversation just about, let's see here. I want to make sure that we are, yep, here we go. And got Tyler Unzicker says, great hanging out with you and the other guys last Saturday at the game. Tyler, I'm so sorry I didn't get to say hello to you. That's my fault if I didn't see you there, or maybe we missed each other during the time. I was in the tent for about an hour or so. But I will say this, just as a side note, stepping away from your recruiting, LT, I walked around Vandyville, and I like that we had that big kids zone over there near the track area. I like the live music. I really enjoyed what I saw. I just want to see more of it. I want to see more people. I didn't know if you had a chance to walk around or if you had previously seen Vandyville and had a comparison in mind. But I hope you liked or saw. And plus the Star Walk was more enhanced, which I really appreciate. It was longer, got the students involved. So I really thought those were some positive things that I saw.
I walked through the whole area. I guess I wasn't that familiar with what it was before, but anyway.
Well, I just hope that they keep heading in the right direction. This game was just hopefully an anomaly, and they'll take care of business out in Colorado. Guys, I'm talking with LT Southall. He played with Coach Pace back in the early 70s, as well as Steve Sloan. And I know that those men as coaches were very different in their approaches, and we'll get to there. But when you came to school in your first fall, did you know what position you'd be competing for? Were you redshirted, or were you immediately eligible? Share a little bit about that experience on the field.
Of course, freshmen couldn't play, so we had our 5-game schedule. I knew I was going to be a lineman. I didn't know offense or defense. I think I played some of both, but by sophomore year, it was all set. I was an offensive lineman for sure.
And what type of offense were they running at the time? Was it more run oriented, or
it was very run oriented? And I forget which year. I guess it must have been that first year. I think we were running the wishbone.
Was
this month, by the way, it's been 50 years since I made my first start. So,
well, that's what I was getting ready to go. It's amazing how time gets by. But I guess what I should have asked, was it the type of offense you were used to? Was it the blocking schemes you had experienced, or was this a whole new terminology and nomenclature and just?
Yeah, I'd say it was all new. I mean, it was so much more to it.
Mhm.
Used to just block who was in front of you, and it was much more regimented. And
Mhm.
the concept of calling plays on the line of scrimmage, I had no idea that
Mhm.
happened in high school. So
What was your strength as a lineman from a skill set standpoint? Did you have good feet? Did you have good strength? Was it your vision? What do
I,
you think was one of your strengths?
I think I was just, I was small and fast, and I imagine I was kind of strong. I don't know.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're playing on the line in the SEC, you had to have some of those things as part of your arsenal. But I suspect a lot of the linemen you were going up against probably outweighed you throughout
Oh,
college.
absolutely. All the time. You bet.
And I guess speed would be an asset when it comes to that. Who was quarterbacking back in your time period?
Well, of course, we have several. Steve Berger,
Mhm.
Watson played a couple. I lost track of. I don't think he was there much my sophomore year. I think he was more junior year. I don't know whether he was injured or what.
Mhm.
But Steve Berger, Watson Brown, later on David Lee and Fred Fisher, Steve Lanehart.
Mhm.
Uh, those were
Well,
the quarterbacks. Yep.
those are some well-known names. They each have their own histories with the program. Some a little better than others, some more notable than others. But let's see. Your coaches, you had told me, were coaches Bradshaw, Patton, and Dockery. And did you switch offenses during that time period? Or I know you switched administration because Coach Sloan came in.
Yeah.
But did it also change the offenses and just the terminology, or was it pretty seamless?
I'm going to say it was seamless because I don't remember. The biggest change, the biggest change and the biggest story of the whole thing was Charlie Bradshaw.
Mhm.
Charlie Bradshaw was something else. He was old school. He was not happy if you weren't bloody. He wasn't happy if he wasn't bloody. I mean, it was really something. And he was so detailed about technique,
Mhm.
uh, even things like getting in your stance, and I mean every little thing. He worked us to death and beat us to death, and it was really something to have gotten through that. So it's probably one of the proudest things I've ever done was to survive Charlie Bradshaw.
I bet it made the games enjoyable compared to the practice.
Absolutely. Games were a breeze compared to practice.
Yeah. Now, did Coach Bradshaw have a particular mannerism or saying or thing that if you were to hear it these days, it'd give you a chuckle?
I don't know. I just remember I remember him standing there constantly smoking a cigarette. And,
During practice. Wow, what a difference.
absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
He was something else. And for those who may not be aware of it, there's a great book you ought to pick up called The Thin 30. It's about Bradshaw and his Kentucky team sometime in the earlier in the 60s. It is it's quite a book. It includes one of the important characters in it is Rock Hudson, of all people.
Wow.
Because of some very strange goings on that were happening with the Kentucky football program.
Gotcha.
So no,
Well,
I had Bradshaw just for my sophomore year, and then he moved to defensive line. Thank goodness.
well, LT, talk a little bit about strength and conditioning that was going on at Vanderbilt during your years. You know, it's evolved so much so over the decades. It's now of utmost importance. Science knows so much more. But back in the day, did you have strength and conditioning coach? Did you
Nope.
have a weight room? What did you guys do to stay in shape?
We had the most minimal little weight room you ever saw. It had like one of these universal gyms and a handful of free weights. There was rarely any required use of it, and so most folks didn't. you were expected to show up able to either, run a mile in a certain amount of time or run certain distances in 12 minutes, I think it was.
Mhm.
But it was, mainly just running sprints during practice, but no real, I don't know, no organized off-season strength and conditioning.
Which, were you guys using McGugan at this point, or were you still in the old field house?
We were in McGugan. Yep.
And McGugan has changed so many times over the years. I'm sure that when you go into it now, you don't recognize what you had when you were there in the 70s, but kind of describe a little bit of the way McGugan used to look during your time.
All I remember was, concrete floors and cinder blocks and nothing fancy at all.
Was there an indoor gym with a little track above it?
Yep. Basketball court in there. Yep.
And I guess that they have meeting spaces or administrative offices as well.
Sure did. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's evolved so many times, and as
I haven't been in there in 20 years to really know.
Oh,
I haven't seen it very recently. No.
Well, I offer to you your next visit. Go find Chris Griffin or somebody. I don't think you recognize at all what has evolved to it at this point. And as Tommy McClellan told us today, it's even going to change more in the next couple of years. They're basically going to connect McGugan with the south part of the end zone, part of the stadium. So it's going to be pretty cool. Guys, I'm talking with LT Southall. We're really just kind of slogging a little bit through the 70s, playing O-line for Coach Pace. What was the difference, that, if anything, that you noticed in the Coach Sloan when he came in compared to Coach Pace?
Oh boy, it's like night and day. Pace was no kind of, Pace was no kind of motivator. People like Charlie Bradshaw certainly were, and other assistants. I could think like Bobby Proctor, defensive back, was quite a motivator of his folks. But Pace was an administrator, and that's it. Sloan, on the other hand, was the funniest man I've ever met. And I don't know why that was motivating, but it was. You wanted to play for that man so bad.
Wow.
He was really something.
Well, what was something that I guess made him so appealing from a humor standpoint? He obviously was very accomplished. He was a very accomplished quarterback in college, and he got into coaching pretty young. He was young when he was coaching.
He was like 28 years old.
Yeah.
He just one of the guys, really, So I don't have specifics other than he was just funny as he could be.
Well, I was going to say, maybe that was just it. Maybe it's because he was so young. He was only, several years older than some of the older players on the team, and maybe that's how they could relate to him. But LT, you switched positions each of the 3 years you were on the varsity level. How was that hard transition for you, or was it pretty natural?
The tough one was senior year. They moved me from guard to center. I forget who. Well, whoever was playing center was young, and they wanted more experience there. So just in like 1 week, learn how to snap the ball and play center, and I did that the rest of the year.
Wow.
Just quarterback snaps, no long snaps,
Mm-hmm.
which is great because that meant I didn't have to do punt coverage. Anyway.
So you came out on 4th down.
Yeah.
Wow. So you didn't have to run down as I guess they call it the gunner, one of the gunner positions.
So no, I was pleased with how easy I was able to make that transition. Yeah.
Well, take us to your senior year a little bit. Let's talk about homecoming. I know that's a good memory for you. That's George. I want you to take us there, and what was so memorable about it?
Well, I don't know, just the whole day. It was a beautiful day. Georgia, I think, was a pretty highly ranked team. Mm-hmm. And somehow we got ahead. Somehow Hawkins Golden got us ahead with his field goals. And it was the first time we'd ever, in any of my football, that I'd ever really beaten a team that we weren't supposed to beat.
Mhm.
I was an absolute mess. I'm sobbing on the sideline most of the fourth quarter. It was the most emotional thing ever happened to me.
Wow.
But anyway, I don't remember specifics of the game other than, again, Hawkins kicking those field goals. I remember after the game, my tried out girlfriend picked me up in her little red sports car. We went to the KA house and had a big party.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think it's my favorite day, period.
Wow. Well, it was in the midst of a 3-game win streak. I'm looking at the
Oh.
records from that year. You guys opened up against Chattanooga and won that one 14-12. You took L's against Mississippi State and Alabama on successive weeks, but then you beat Virginia pretty handily, then William and Mary, and then Georgia. And you guys are sitting at 4-2 heading into the Mississippi game at the end of October.
I called my dad after the Georgia game. I said, man, we're going to a bowl game. Because we knew we were going to beat Mississippi. Oh, well, I guess we didn't.
No, you lost 24-14. Then took an L against Kentucky, an L against Tulane. You beat Tampa, and that set up the last game of the year against those guys over in Knoxville. And that was a nail biter, 20-17, and which was a loss. And you guys ended up, back then it was 6 games, made you eligible, I think. But you guys ended up 5-6 on the season. You had been 3-8 and 4-6 the 2 seasons before. So it was
4-6-1. We should talk about the one.
Well, let's go there.
You go. All time.
That was the lowest scoring game in Vanderbilt history. This was the 71 season. This is September. You played Louisville. Was that at home or away?
I was at home.
A 0-0 tie. Why was it a 0-0 tie? What was going on that day?
Well, it's weird things like it was my first start, so maybe that was part of it. I don't know, man. We just couldn't get her done.
Was there a rainstorm or was it any weather issues?
I think to me the most notable part of that game was the opposition. The coach was Lee Corso, and one of the linebackers was Tom Jackson.
Wow!
Both from ESPN fame, what have you.
There's a pair. I guess I didn't appreciate. I most notably pair Coach Corso with when he was at Indiana, but I didn't appreciate he had been at Louisville as well. Wow. A 0-0 tie. You don't see much of those anymore. I mean, even this past week, the Georgia Clemson game just being 10-3, that's an old style SEC defensive game that you rarely see anymore.
So, I guess it means our defense did real good. The Louisville quarterback, I think, was supposed to be a pretty hotshot quarterback, but they obviously held him in check. So.
Well, LT, let's go off the field for a few minutes. Let's talk about hanging at the KA house, and you had also said the Trestle Club, the West End Diner. Talk to us a little bit. Any other fraternity brothers on the football team during your years?
I was their token jock, so no football players other than me. And our favorite hangout place was out West End. I wish I knew what crossroad to tell you it was near. It wasn't too far from campus. It's been gone for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
The official name was the West End Diner. I knew it as the Trestle Club, or we all knew it as the Trestle Club. Just run down, shuffleboard in the back. What they call bingo pinball machines, where you could win money. Are you aware of these machines? Because they've been gone for quite a while.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of our college life beating on these stupid machines that there were pinball machines without bumpers or without flippers. They had like 21 holes spread across this field, and you had to jostle the machine to get things in certain holes.
Oh, wow.
You'd feed nickels into this stupid thing.
Uh-huh.
The cool thing about the Trustful Club, you could go in there with $1 and get a pack of cigarettes and a beer and still have 3 nickels left over to put in that in the pinball machine.
That's awesome. Now, could you walk there from wherever you were living?
I don't know because I never did, but it'd have been quite a hike. Yeah.
Now in the 80s, the freshman football players predominantly lived in Branscombe Quadrangle in the middle of campus near Memorial Gymnasium. And then as you moved upper class, you moved on to the Carmichael Towers, rest in peace. And I know that's evolved over the years. But in the 70s, where did you live as a freshman, and where else did you live?
We were in Kassam Quadrangle.
Mm-hmm.
For camp, when we first got there, August of 70, we were in Carmichael, but then for freshman year, we were in Kassam, and then back to Carmichael, like a second and third floor of Carmichael 2.
Mm-hmm. That's, I guess they lived there for years, because that's where we all lived as well. And I'm just kind of glad those eyesores are finally going away.
I agree.
Yeah. I can remember when I was there in the late 80s, you could still go to the roof. People would hang out in the sun, sunbathe. I'm not naming names, but I know of some who threw water balloons off the roof and did stuff they probably weren't supposed to do then or now.
One of the dumber things I did in Carmichael, I had a cat for one semester. I don't know what the hell I was thinking.
What was that about?
I don't know. I just like cats.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this second floor room that opened up into that roof between the 2 towers.
Uh-huh.
So I could throw the cat shit out there on the roof. I really don't know what was going on.
It's the stuff we do in college. It just makes you shake your head. Just amazing what you remember.
Yep.
Take us off campus, take us off of the football stuff. What about academics? Was there any particular courses of study, any professors, anything that you really liked, anything you really just wished you would not have signed up for?
Well, I was an engineer, and early on, I did real well, Dean's List, all kind of good stuff. Mostly, introductory engineering courses, math courses, physics, all that good stuff. Oh, and a lot of computer science. So I initially thought I was going to get a degree in what they called SIS, Systems and Information Science.
Okay.
So early on, I did real well, but later on, my priorities shifted, and my schoolwork suffered as a result.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, I ended up with the degree of engineering science, mainly because the upper level SIS courses were conflicting with football. They would have let me go, but again, football was getting kind of important to me, so I decided to shift like that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, my grades really went to crap. In fact, it took me 3 extra summers to graduate, and I barely did. So I really screwed that bit up. Like I said, my priorities got rearranged, and where school should have been much higher than it was. But
hey, sometimes that's what's part of the college experience. But clearly, you went on to get your degree and had a nice professional career. And I understand that are you now recently retired, or have you been retired for a bit?
I've been fully retired for almost 4 years.
And what was your main professional responsibilities?
For the first 30 years or so, I was involved in selling or being technical support to a sales group selling industrial control systems, the control systems for refineries and chemical plants and paper mills. The last 10 years, I was a user of those systems at ExxonMobil's big facility in Baytown, Texas.
Oh, very good. I know of Baytown. Unfortunately, what you hear out of the news is not, sometimes it's when things go awry. I hope you were never involved in any of those situations. But guys, I'm talking with LT Southall. We were playing the line in the early 70s and how much he truly truly enjoyed Coach Bradshaw and all of his teachings back in the day. Any other game or practice experiences or memories that come to mind at this point?
I don't know, just maybe a good example of Bradshaw and how he would try to teach you stuff. To try to show us what it felt like to really drive through somebody and wipe them out. He'd have these freshmen straddle on the board, you know, the board drill you do. He'd have them with their knees on either side of the board, but hands at their side, just standing there and having us just fire right through them just to get the feel for plowing through somebody like that. It was crazy.
So they were live tackling dummies, basically, or blocking dummies.
And they were not supposed to resist at all. Just let them kill you.
Could you imagine them doing it now, that drill?
Oh, I don't know. He, there were those that really hated him. I've got a bootleg recording of a guy. Oh man, Spanky McCaskill. His name was David McCaskill. He was quasi country singer and nose guard, and so he got Bradshaw the next year. I've got a recording of him really going off on Bradshaw. He hated his guts. A lot of people did, but the others of us, you know, kind of father figure thing, and just like I said, glad to have survived him.
Well, I was going to say, there's got to be, it's terrible of an experience, and we all have those coaches who we just don't care for, or we just don't get along with personality wise, or for whatever reason. But fast forward later in life, there's got to be some life lessons in there somewhere.
Yep.
And I'm hearing them from you, but I want you to share a little bit of maybe something you used later in life to help you either personally or professionally, because clearly if Coach Bradshaw's still on your mind 50 years later, he made an impression on you back then and still does a little bit today.
I don't know if I can come up with an example. I mean, just you know, the don't quit business, I guess. Although I did a bit of quitting in my professional life. But anyway, I've worked for 7 different companies, although I did stretches of 28 with one and 10 years with another. So.
Well, it says something for perseverance if you were able to last the whole season or seasons under this coach. But it's you know, today's athlete, I hate to generalize, and this is a whole different topic, but the transfer portal just seems to be such an easy way for guys to jump ship, if you will. And I don't mean to get off on that, but it wasn't so easy back in our days. But LT, I want to thank you for spending some time and sharing some awesome stories with us tonight. We really want to hear more stories from the guys who played during your era, during the late 60s, early to mid 70s. I love hearing all these old stories. I sure do.
Well, I will send you email addresses of several guys. There's a group that gets together in Atlanta area folks from class of 73, 74. They get together, not as frequently as we used to, but some of those guys would be fantastic.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. Well, guys, as we do each week, it's another awesome conversation with Commodores from years past and present. I've got a whole lineup all the way through November. I'm starting to line up the Thanksgiving time period all the way through the end of the year with guys from all different decades. So thank you for each week coming in and commenting and watching and just participating. Hope you guys continue to be safe. Need to pull home a win against Colorado State this weekend. Anchor down.